Beware. Welcome back to Viewer Beware, the only show where we go over each and every episode of the Goosebumps TV series. And today we have a special episode because it's one that I don't remember all that well, and it's How to Kill a Monster. Now, I rewatch the show pretty often. At a point, it was about once per year. But when this came up on the episode list, I couldn't for the life of me remember what goes on in this episode.
You're getting confused in old age.
So after watching this episode a few times over and over, I think I started to understand why. A lot of these episodes can be kind of paint by numbers, tropey, but this one just follows everything to a T to a point that it just kind of blends in with the background. We see yet another swamp that I'm pretty sure uses the same music that Fever Swamp did. We see two kids being dropped off by their parents to a creepy relative, the same way we saw in Monster Blood or Ghost Beach. And then also, like in Monster Blood, these parents are leaving their kids to go to Atlanta. What's going on in Atlanta?
What's up with that?
Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. How to Kill a Monster is about two recent step-siblings that go out to a swamp when the natural becomes unnatural. Sure, we've seen it before, but have we seen it with an allergic goo explosion? I would hope not. But let's crack open our drinks and start to learn how to kill a monster. In a familiar tale, we start with two kids who recently became step-siblings, Clark and Gretchen, getting dropped off in a swamp where Gretchen's grandparents live. The kids' parents are going away on a honeymoon, so they dump the kids off. We quickly learn that Clark is a hypochondriac, has allergy attacks, and is completely out of his element in the swamp.
Oh, your grandma has a gumbo stand! What's gumbo?
But Gretchen is right at home, as she's been out in the swamp several times before. The kids eventually get to the grandparents' shack, but are concerned when nobody's home. Clark is too scared to look around himself, so he follows Gretchen as she searches the house for any signs of life.
It might be dangerous. You go first.
As the kids search room to room, Clark eventually gets jump scared by Grandma, who meets the boy for the first time.
Grandma?
Gretchen. Oh. And this must be Craig.
It's Clark.
Later that day, the kids settle in to eat swamp gumbo, with Clark struggling to keep up with the heat.
Needs more hot sauce.
As the kids are eating, they hear a mysterious sound.
Did you hear that?
But the grandparents brush it off by saying it's just swamp gas. But Clark doesn't believe it, insisting that the swamp is home to any number of undiscovered beasts. Later that night, Gretchen wakes up to get some water, but runs into the grandparents in the hallway, who are immediately acting strange.
I just wanted a drink of water.
Well, you sure won't find it in there.
Yeah, you sure won't. That's just
An old storage room full of...
old stored thing.
Obviously they're hiding something, but they're doing a horrible job of it.
I'll get you that glass of water.
Who wouldn't be creeped out by this? The next day, Gretchen is getting ready for the day before walking out to a surprise.
You are toast!
Gotta catch me first.
Clark runs off hiding, and Gretchen goes looking for him, before hearing a rumble in the mystery room her grandparents were protecting. While in the room, Gretchen hears the rumble again, under a large sheet, and deduces that this must be Clark.
Okay, that's enough. Let's get out of here.
But instead, it's some kind of chicken, dinosaur, slime thing. As Gretchen runs away, she bumps into Clark, letting him know that the swamp monster is real, which he doesn't believe until he goes to look for himself.
Clark? Clark?
False alarm, Gretchen.
But it turns out it's not there. Rather than be concerned with the disappearing monster, the kids are more worried that the grandparents are leaving the house without telling them, until they hear that familiar rumble again. The kids try to run away from the monster, but can only go upstairs as their exit is blocked. Eventually they get to the top of an unfinished staircase that the swamp monster just kinda runs headfirst off of, potentially killing it. Clark and Gretchen don't trust the swamp monster to stay down, so they try to leave, but notice the front door is padlocked shut. As they try the back door, they realize it's also locked shut. But they do find a letter left by the grandparents explaining that they just went out into town on an errand.
Dear Gretchen and Craig,
It's Clark.
sorry to leave you alone like this. We had to go into town on a very important errand, but we'll be back soon. Please be careful and stay out of the storage room upstairs.
A little late for that, don't you think?
Why they decided to lock two kids in a building with an ancient dinosaur turtle chicken, we may never know. But as the kids are debating what they should do to get out, the swamp monster has popped back up and followed them to the kitchen. So after locking it out, they decide they're going to give the creature heartburn by whipping up a pot of gumbo and letting it feast. Holy shit, did that work? With a temporary victory, the kids go down to the cellar to see if there's any way out from the coal chute underground. As the kids search for a ladder to climb up the chute, they start to argue about whose fault it is that the monster is out, until he comes back and walks the kids down. Clark acts quick and boosts Gretchen up into the coal chute to get away. Then, realizing he has no choice, he tries to throw hands with the beast, but ends up shoving his entire arm down the monster's throat. But soon after, the monster starts to convulse and eventually drop to the floor.
Is it really dead this time?
Turns out the thing was allergic to humans the whole time. So the kids end up walking through the woods covered in swamp goo. Eventually, they get the idea to finally read the rest of the letter.
P.S. Grandpa shot a monster while he was out hunting. We didn't tell you about it because we didn't want to scare you. Just don't disturb it and everything will be fine.
Oh, so now they tell us.
Wait, P.P.S. There might be more of them out there in the swamp, so we're locking you in until we get back. Whatever happens, don't go out into the swamp after dark.
So, got any more ideas?
So our two heroes teamed up, put their differences aside, and learned how to kill a monster. But now they're stuck out in the swamp after dark, covered in goo, which I can only assume works as swamp monster chum.
Cue up the Jaws music.
So, like I was saying earlier, Atlanta. They don't explicitly say the parents are going there, but in the book, they leave the kids because they have unnamed business to attend to in Atlanta. In the story of the episode, they kind of change it to a honeymoon, but in my heart of hearts, I still believe they're going to the Coke factory in Atlanta. Other than that change, the design of the monster was also changed. You can see on the cover of the book that it's more of like a fuzzy creature, and it's described as having an alligator-like head. But in the episode, it looks more like the turkey from Thanksgiving mixed with the snapping turtle monster from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie.
His name is Toka. Or was it Razor?
It's not super clear why the design was changed. I would only assume it's because easier to do. I mean, swamp mixed with fur doesn't really, work super well. Also, maybe it's just creepier. I mean, it was a pretty creepy looking monster design. I can't deny that. But the main point is that if you fed Goosebumps stories into ChatGPT and asked it to create an episode, this is probably what it would spit out. I mean, it doesn't really have a clear identity. It just feels like it's there. It just blends in with everything we've seen before. It doesn't have that it factor. It's not really bad, but I mean, it's not good enough to stand on its own. The set design is pretty cool. I did like the set, I like the house, I like the swamp, I even like the monster design, but I mean, vibes and atmosphere can really only get you so far. And so for that, I'm gonna have to give this 1.5 bumps out of 5. You can miss it. You could check it out, but I mean, you'll probably forget about it the same way that I did. And I love this series. I've watched it so many times. I must have watched this episode like 30 times. And one ear out the other. I don't know.
That's probably dementia.
But thank you guys for watching. Viewer beware. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye bye.
I'll get you that glass of water.